Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful card using Lilypad Lake and the DSP. I used actually a number of them. I used Petal Promenade, which is in the background, and this delightfully detailed paper, and then this vellum is the Floral Romance DSP. So instead, usually I design around a stamp set, but in this case, I kind of designed around the DSP because I am kind of thinking these are going to be retiring. These papers are going to be no longer offered after June 3rd, and we're getting towards closer to that. So it's sort of a use up the DSP from last year. Anyhow, so while I was designing this, I was just thinking it would be fun to make a sympathy card. Usually I feel kind of sad even making those, but when I need one, I want to be able to have it on hand and go ahead and send that out right away. So I first designed this, and then I thought Lilypad Lake, and I thought that would be really a nice little accent for this. So I did a lot of the steps ahead of time, but I did want to talk a little bit about the detailed laser paper. So what I did is I cut mine all apart, including, it comes with this tissue paper between it. So I have it all that cut out and put in a bag. Now I could just mark this as the delightfully detailed laser cut paper, but if you do this ahead of time, you're much more likely to use it. So I really recommend that. And then it does have these little side pieces. Sorry about the glare here. Which I did cut, but I'm just kind of leaving them in the main part. So we will get started. And first I will bring in my background here. So you can see I've already die cut this out with my largest stitch shape rectangle framelit. And then I adhered it to some white cardstock. So the next part is to go ahead and adhere the detailed laser paper. So I really highly recommend using something non-stick for this part. It'll just make your life easier. So I've already, of course, cut this out, and I just am going to center it here. With my first one, I actually added this little border, so I kept it closer, but this one I'll just center. So turn it over, and the second side is with very vanilla. So the key here is to get it started kind of, and then just add a little bit of, sorry about that, it hit the tripod. Just add kind of a little thin bead. It doesn't take a lot to hold this down, and you do not have to go on each of those flowers because some of it will be held in place by the focal image. So I'm just going to kind of dot here and there on these bigger flowers, and we're not going to worry too much, to hold everything down. So there is probably enough, and I don't know if you can see, it's very little glue, and I actually didn't get any here, but if I did, it would protect my work surface. So the next step here is you do not want this sliding around. Okay, I just dropped it. What I was going to say is try not to drop it like that because you don't want the glue kind of showing through. And this sets very quickly, especially if you do a very thin little beading of the glue, which I did. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. So we will bring in our base and quickly add this. Again, this is mainly to show how I'm using up the DSP and just give you a few ideas on how to do that and use up if you do have this laser cut paper. It isn't that difficult to deal with. It's slightly tricky, but not too hard to use it up. But it's really quite beautiful and elegant. So it definitely makes a beautiful sympathy card. All right, so I have stamped this and used the Versa Mark and the Copper Embossing Powder and die cut it out with the matching framelits for the Lilypad Lake, and those would be called Lakeside framelit dies. So I keep my stamps and my dies all in one container. I just get those magnet sheets from Home Depot for vent covers, and I just do that. And it actually works extremely well. It's nothing too difficult. I just cut them up with my guillotine paper cutter. So, okay, so I ran this through the Big Shot. This is the Well Written, I believe it is. Yeah, Well Written framelit dies. I got this from. And I thought this one, the first one I did with the Calypso Coral, or no, it wasn't Calypso Coral. It was Grapefruit Grove. And this one I thought, well, it would be fun to do copper. It might stand out slightly better. And you just had to punch these out with like a pokey tool or something. And I just run this through my Big Shot one time, and you can see it really does a very adequate job for one time. It does a great job cutting it. You don't have to run it through several times, I have found. And I did back it with this adhesive backing. So if you, I do not think this adhesive backing will be offered in the next catalog. So you definitely want to get your hands on it. I'm just shaking that into my scrap bin, and I still have a little bit of here. That probably wasn't a good idea to do it over that, by the way. Okay, so I just basically want to make sure it's reasonably straight, and I think this centers pretty well, actually. This could go down a little. If you don't push down too hard, you can actually maneuver it. Oh, I love this copper. Isn't that gorgeous with it? Yes, that was definitely an improvement. I'm glad I did that. Although the Grapefruit Grove letters were pretty and more subtle, but this is, I think that's just gorgeous. So here we go. This is backed with the Blushing Bride cardstock, this scalped oval. So before I adhere that, I wanted to show, this is the vellum from the Floral Romance, and you can just add glue right to it. It really, once you set it, back it, you really don't see that glue at all. Unlike most, the clear vellum, you have to be much more careful with that. I usually use like glue dots, etc. So that is really very simple because it does allow for that. Okay, so let me get my beautiful little bird. I like to think of it as an egret, but I'm not sure. Other people would probably say something else. So, but my interpretation, this one is an egret bird. It's just beautiful. So there we have it. And now we will do a little bit of stamping inside. So I have this thinking of you with loving thoughts and prayers. And I think that's just a perfect sentiment for sending a sympathy card. And I have my Grapefruit Grove ink pad here. So I'll just quickly ink this up. Is anyone getting excited about the new catalog? They have some beautiful stuff, but of course it's also sad to see some of the other stuff retire. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I always like to go ahead stamp, because if I get it crooked, I can do the other side before I add a little bit of DSP, which is what I'm doing here. This is also a little fun idea. This is like 7/8 of an inch, I believe. This little piece of DSP. And I got a little crooked here, but that's the great part about the liquid glue. You can adjust it really easily. So I'm going to open up our card, and you could write directly on here, but look how this just really makes it pop. It's absolutely beautiful. So anyway, sorry about the racket. I just dropped something when I was getting my tape out. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, don't forget to tap the bell for notifications. If there's anything you would like to order, I'd be happy to help you with that. I love sharing my craft here and hope you've enjoyed this. Anyway, here we go. I'll bring in the original card so we can compare and you can let me know what you think. But I think this is absolutely stunning with the foil and how that turned out. So we'll just give a little close up here and I will say goodbye and happy stamping.